help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
All right, everyone, welcome to What's the Rush podcast with me, your host, Rebecca Rusch. And this is a space where we take a pause and we explore together into the minds and the hearts of people who created incredible impact. And while what we see on the outside with these folks is so impressive and inspiring on its own, here we want to look a little deeper into the quiet and reflective spaces and explore their journey in a way that maybe hasn't been shared before. So, as the queen of pain, world champion athlete, entrepreneur, trailblazer, I know from personal experience that success does not come without struggle. So, my goal here is to look at some of those knots and untangle them a little bit to reveal a fruitful path for all of us. So today we have an amazing guest I'm super excited to talk to. You're going to love her. Her name is Maureen Kolenyo, and she is the perfect person to go exploring with us today. She is a wife, a mom of 5 children, a community advocate, and highly successful transformational leader in various business sectors in Africa. She earned a Bachelor of Commerce and an MBA in strategic management from the University of Nairobi. And she's also pursuing a PhD in strategic management as well. She's based in Kenya and she has so many superpowers, including forging relationships, advancing complicated organizational goals, developing sustainable solutions to really tough problems. She's really good at bridging public and private sectors to create collective impact, and a big advocate for gender equality and sustainable development. Her passion is helping entire communities overcome barriers and thrive. And she currently works with World Bicycle Relief as the regional director of East Africa. And this is where our connection comes together. World Bicycle Relief, also we call WBR, was founded 20 years ago in response to a crisis. After witnessing the devastation of the Indian Ocean tsunami, co-founders FK Day and Leah Misbach Day saw how lack of transportation was really preventing rural communities from accessing healthcare, education, and rebuilding. And so their solution is brilliant: bicycles. And these life-changing tools really help empower people and communities by helping them conquer the challenge of distance and achieve independence and thrive. So this is the 20th anniversary this year of WBR, and they've evolved to a global nonprofit and have transformed so many lives. And I'll just mention their goal this year that you can help with, we can all help with, is to hit 1 million bicycles distributed through their program. So we are very connected in that way through the Be Good Foundation, through WBR. And now, Maureen, you and I are connected to have an amazing conversation about you and how you've gotten to where you are, and some of your challenges and learning. So welcome to What's the Rush?
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for that introduction. I'm humbled, actually very humbled by the introduction.
Well, I'm humbled to be able to talk to you, and I'm kind of overwhelmed by the amount that you have achieved in your lifetime. And so there are a lot of areas that we can go, but I want to start first with, I know from we've had some previous conversations that have been really fun, and I know that education has been a really foundational thing for you in your career, but also in your beliefs for helping other people. So can you
Yeah,
share a little bit about your educational background and your upbringing and
yeah.
kind of how you started your path in education?
Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, I truly believe that education is key because knowledge is power. And the only way we would advance ourselves is if we know, if we acquire, if we're opening to our learning spirit. And I think that started early on in life for me. Growing up in Mombasa, that's in the coastal part of Kenya, went to a primary school there, then a secondary school, which was in Nairobi, actually outskirts of Nairobi. And then I pursued my first degree, which is in a Bachelor of Commerce, and then moved it to an MBA. But at which time I was able to join an organization, a private sector organization, which was totally in logistics. But then I knew that I required more. I wanted more. I wanted to do more. And the only way I was able to do that is by advancing my education. So even as, if you look at my MBA, that I acquired that while I was married with children, because I knew the only way I can move forward, make changes, is by, really focusing on myself and becoming a better person so that I can impart all that knowledge that I'm aware of. So growing up, my dad was focused on education. He understood that through education, that's what's going to push. And that has been for a long time, especially here in Africa. The only way you'd move to the next level is if you are educated and if you excel in your education. It's not just being educated, but to excel in your education, that opens opportunities that previously would not be there. So by having to excel and open offer different opportunities, that allowed me to see things in a different view, that it is possible for anyone, wherever you are, as long as you just believe that it's possible and you do the work that comes along with it.
So you had access to education as a young girl. Is common, is not common? It was based on your situation growing up?
That's purely based on my situation growing up. And when I look back now, I really feel I was privileged to some extent, because as I continue to work in communities, in rural communities, I know that education is not a it is a right, but not every household, especially the adolescent girl child, has access to education. But back then, I truly did not understand, because I woke up, I went to a good private school. My parents were able to afford. At any given time I was in school, there was no challenge that I wasn't able to get to school or be in school. So definitely within the African setup, that is a privilege for you to be able to access education. At that particular time, education was not free. Now there is universal free primary education. However, secondary education is still not free. So there's always a challenge that you do have all these people who finish primary education but do not advance to secondary education, especially the adolescent girl child, because of different challenges that they bear. And of course, the cost of education is one of them.
So you talk about the different challenges for girls in education versus boys. What do you mean? Can you expand on that?
So let me give you an example. In rural Africa, parents have like 3 or 4 children, right? 5, in some places 6 or 7 or 8. And there are 5 or maybe 4 boys, 3 girls, just using that as an example. Previously, it was believed that the boys are the ones who would go and make it to themselves. The girls will get married and move and marry the boys who are being taken to school. So by default, usually the boy child has always been put ahead to be able to go to education. The second layer comes in is that in the rural setup, the lady of the home expects that the young girl to support the mother, whether it's taking care of the younger children, whether it's doing chores in the household. And of course, that also hinders the girl child from concentrating on school. The third is in terms of how does she get to school. If I have enough money to take 2 children, I would take the boy child and leave the girl child. So the adolescent girl child, is usually disadvantaged when it comes to ensuring that she has access to school through those different models. So you'll find that the boy child, even a relative can support, but the girl child struggles to be supported to access school. And of course, then mobility comes into that play, because is it safe for a young 13-year-old, 14-year-old to walk 10 kilometers, from dusk or earlier than dusk, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., all the way to school? It's not safe. So there are all those different actors that really pose a challenge for the adolescent child to finish her secondary education.
So as you grew up in a city, though, did you
Yes.
experience the same sort of difference between girls and boys pursuing and moving along through education, because you didn't have the challenge of mobility or
No.
cost where you
No.
were?
No.
Were you seeing the challenge of I'm a girl and having to fight your way, or were you given the equal opportunity because you were in a city?
Well, the city is slightly different because you then given a platform that's equal. But there's always discrimination between boy and girl, even in the workplace, even in different sectors. That has always been um, a, um, a challenge. But in terms of the city life is a bit different because people come to the city and they go to schools that they can be able to afford. People who still within the city, you will find public schools whereby the number of boys is probably higher than the girls within the city school because the dynamics are the same. Whether we are in rural, whether in city, whatever you can afford is directly proportional to what you earn or what you're able to make in terms of economic. So the dynamic is still the same across the different platforms. It's just more pronounced in the rural setup.
Yeah, so when we talked before, I had the chance to go in 2016 to do a project with World Bicycle Relief to take my bike up and down Mount Kilimanjaro, and my goal was to raise $19,340, which is the height of Mount Kilimanjaro,
Yes.
5895 meters. And so I wanted to raise that amount of money by climbing or biking up and down Kilimanjaro and then visiting those schools and helping deliver the bikes. And it was magical. I was biking up and climbing Kilimanjaro. It was the highest elevation I'd ever been. And I
Mm,
was thinking about, well, this is hard for me physically, but it's nothing compared to the challenges that girls are having, and I've had challenges as a girl in my sport, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, for sure, but nothing in comparison. And I remember the last final meters of climbing was so hard and so windy, and at the summit I just I thought about the girls getting to school and the power of the bicycle and what the bicycle has provided me. And then the best part of the trip, we got to ride down Kilimanjaro, but go visit the schools. And they had a big celebration, a dance, a party for us. We talked about what it was like to climb this mountain and kind of draw the parallels of the hard challenge of the mountain that we're all climbing.
mm,
And then I got to visit their homes and meet with the moms and the girls and ride bikes with them. And that was my first experience seeing the challenges that you're talking about. That I do think women and girls have challenges across the world.
mm,
It's different society. It's a
yeah.
patriarchal society worldwide in many ways. But witnessing kind of the similar but different challenges and being able to sit with some of those girls, and I would show them the scars on my elbows and said, this is, you're strong, because some of the girls were afraid to ride bikes that they might fall off. And I
Mm,
rode with them that if you fall off the bike, you get back on. And seeing the confidence that was developed, I mean, I see it in the girls that I work with here
mm,
with my foundation, but seeing it firsthand, and then the joy and the pride their mothers had in the strength that they know their girls have and
yeah.
that they could see coming out. It was so powerful for me. And I want to hear the story from you, because I know that you were also not aware of what was going
Yeah.
on in rural Africa, even though you grew up in Africa,
Yeah.
and we're also not aware of these challenges. And so
Yeah.
when did that start to take shape for you as a business person, an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
You're doing
Yeah.
all sorts of business, but then at some point in your life, you went into the rural and discovered the challenges that were happening right just a few kilometers away from where you live.
Yeah.
Can you talk
I'm
about that?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing, and I think that's why I'm so intentional for my children, my family members to be truly aware of this, because growing up, and as I say privileged, I say that very humbly, because I know what the rural setup comes in. So let no one think that we were these multimillionaires. No, we're very humble people. But my dad worked well, worked hard, and ensured he took us to school. However, I still wasn't aware of the magnitude of what the rural girl is facing in different parts of the world. So my first snippet was not necessarily with girls, but it was with water. And working for the first time during COVID, I took a volunteer job. And I was working with AMREF, which is a large health organization, and we were distributing hand washing stations across the coastal region. So just a few kilometers from where I grew up. And I still could not understand that why would we be asking people to wash their hands? Because I remember when you're going to the table, you wash your hands and sit down, not even thinking about it. But there was no water to wash your hands. There was no way these people would wash their hands. And this was why COVID was spreading in that area. So that was my first, aha moment, like, okay, these guys are in Kenya, they're in the coastal part, and this is the challenge. Now, fast forward to World Bicycle Relief. I got this job very excited. I'm going to do this job. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change each different thing. The first shock is that you can't change the world. You got to do your best every single minute and change. Because coming from the corporate world, the first thing I knew, you have a problem, you fix it, you move on. But the realization that this is bigger than me, bigger than anyone, that we have to come together to make a difference. So here I am in a distribution in a place called Siaya, and this was my first distribution. And we were told we're going to distribute bicycles to schools. And I had done homework on the work. I had done homework on World Bicycle Relief. I had done homework on what we needed to see, but I had not felt it until we reached at the first distribution. And of course, we distributed the bicycles, the girls cheering, as you said, cheering, excited, until the mother stood up and came to me and started wailing and crying, and tears of, and I was wondering, why is she crying? And she told me, for the first time today, I'm going to go home and sleep comfortably. My daughter has been walking every day from 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just to ensure she's in school by 6:30, and she leaves the school by 5:30 or 6 so that she can be back at home at 7 or 7:30. The whole time until she comes back home, I'm holding my breath. Has she been accosted? Has she been attacked? There's all these things that have been going through her whole mind. But now she was excited that the girl can go when there's dusk, there's already light, and will get into school within 30 minutes and come back home before dark. That was so profound that something, just as what in my mind felt was so small, a bicycle that's been here for centuries, can make a difference in somebody's life. That is the first time I really realized that, wow, this is something that we should be part of. This is something that we should make a difference. We should be part of this impact to change the lives of all these different girls and boys, actually, because boys were also receiving bicycles.
Well, and I love that you said that about changing the lives of girls and boys, and it's something that I've seen in my work. I've done a lot of work with girls on bikes,
Yes.
and SRAM. I started something called the SRAM Gold Rush Tour in 2009, which was getting girls on bikes, because as a professional cyclist, I saw that there was intimidation. There were, I was a pro cyclist, but still was feeling intimidated even in my own world, and so I created all these spaces just free to take girls bike riding. And it was beautiful, and it still is. But when I really saw the magic happening was the fathers of the daughters and the brothers of the girls also becoming part of it, because it is a family sort of situation. It is not, yes, it's helping the girls, but then you see how the joy and the strength and the respect comes from the male people and the fathers and the brothers. So do you see that same thing?
Yeah, because they have to be the champions. I mean, the man of the house or the father of the house can decide, I'm the father, and pick up the bicycle and go away with it. No, he has to be part of the process to understand that his girl child has been given a bicycle for her education. He has to accept that. The brother has to accept that. But they also know that this bicycle will be multi-dimensional. It'll support them during the holiday. They can rush to the farm, pick up something when the kids are back at home for holiday. So they do understand that this is a tool for the household. Yes, it's for the girl, but it's also for the household. But they also are champions that they want their child to be safe. Every father, every brother wants their sister or or daughter to be safe. So they are also a proponent of that whole process. Yes, the mom probably more worried, but yes, the dad also is fighting for his daughter to get ahead, and to be ahead of the pack. And as you look at rural Africa, as you continue to look, you see girls that are getting successful, coming back home, and they're seeing the neighbor's child who was a girl who went to school, who had a bicycle, went to university, has changed their lives. So it's a movement. Everybody's seeing that this bicycle is changing their lives. So even the men, I mean, of course, there's always a few to the rule, but we're talking about the positive spirit that comes in when a bicycle is handed over. Because yes, it was a lady who came to me, a mother, but in that group of recipients, we also had fathers that were present and supporting their children getting bicycles.
So you're seeing cultural change in Africa by these girls having mobility
Yeah,
as kids and
yeah,
healthcare workers being
yeah.
able to get I mean, so your shift, you worked in the private sector, in corporate, world for 30 something years, right?
About 26 years in the corporate
Okay.
world.
And then and then COVID was your shift into philanthropic work. How has that changed in your heart and your ethic? And I mean, obviously you've been successful your whole career, but has the motivation shifted?
Yes, it has. It has, because then, I mean, as I am in my 50s now, I truly want to make a difference. I want to be remembered for 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 just changing people's lives. I mean, my responsibility, my duty is my children, my family members, but then I also want to make a difference in the community that I live. And any small little thing that I can do to make a difference, that's what looks. So coming into this world where we're a social enterprise, we're non-for-profit, and we are all about the impact, that speaks to me personally. It speaks to me personally because I'm in that stage of my life where I feel um we have to do good things, with great people, and make other people's lives better. I'm just in that space. So for me,
Yeah.
this is where I need to be. And sometimes people will say, maybe you'd have come early. No, I think this is the time. I think this is the time it allowed me to have the maturity,
Mm.
and really the drive to move to this level.
Yeah, I do. We do change throughout our careers and our lives, and our motivations change from, winning medals or getting a bigger paycheck or, to a different kind of win that is in your heart. And I'm sure you're paid fairly and we all need to make a living, but
Yeah.
there are different motivations, I think, as we grow.
Yeah.
Can I ask your experience with a bicycle?
Oh,
Like
wow.
your experience as a kid, as an
Okay.
adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. My experience with the bicycle, I mean, I grew up and there were always bicycles because I'm the fifth child of eight. So there were always bicycles. The older people had bicycles before us. I woke up, we had bicycles. We rode around our compound. In school, we had in sports we would have bicycle challenges, but it's never been anything that to me had been the focal point of my life. And then as I grew up, I love swimming. Yeah. And I started taking on walking and running. And so I wanted to do a triathlon. And that's when I started now trying to really speed up my experience with the bicycle, because when it came to swimming, that was second to none. It's very natural to me. When it came
Yeah.
to running, slowly by slowly, I was able to move to some level. So I needed to really. So this just happened actually. I started doing this later on in my life when I really took wellness, um, all the 8 aspects of wellness, and one was physical wellness, and which I felt I had neglected for a very long part of my life. So when I picked up that again, it was the time when I just left the corporate world and moved into the philanthropic. That's when I really took focus on my health, my life,
Mm.
my well-being, and that's when I wanted to do the triathlon. And so that's when I picked up riding again, starting to ride, going distances, many miles, just before I joined WBR. And so I've been cycling ever since. You wouldn't call me an avid cycler, no, but I do cycle quite a bit. But then when I got into World Bicycle Relieved, I realized, hey, this is a tool. This is a
Yeah.
tool. Because when you look at what it does, it changes how you view the bicycle.
Mhm.
Because when I look at what we are doing right now, the people who we are focusing to get the bicycle are those ones who have no alternative. The alternative of walking is walking. So
Yeah.
these group of people who do not have access to any type of mobility because of distance, because of the terrains of the road, the bicycle is their solution. So the bicycle must be fit for purpose. And that's how I look at the bicycle right now. It's a tool. It's a tool
Yeah.
that supports to ensure the child goes to school. It's a tool for the health purpose, and it's a tool for that farmer to be able to access markets, for that farmer to go to one point from the other. So it's a whole shift in how I view the bicycle and how I see now, oh, wow, this is it. Previously, a bicycle was just a chopper for recreational. Then it
Yeah.
moved to something that will help me in terms of my fitness goals, my wellness as a person. And now it's come to be the center of my life.
The bike is a tool for many things: physical, mental health, and also mobility. You have a quote that I love that I would love to read. It says 70% of the African continent lives in the rural setup and has no access to mobility. It is that group of people that we feel have been left behind, and this is the group of people that you're serving. I also love that you're taking your health into focus, because if you're not well as a mom and as the regional director, then you can't help the people that you want to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even in the beginning when I started, I said it's all about how do you make yourself better to be available. Um, if you do not take care of yourself, if you do not make yourself well, then you really have you're not able to offer what you should. You can't be your best version of yourself. You have to learn the art of no. You have to learn the art of yes when it's necessary, but you also have to learn the art of I have to be well so that I'm a good mother, a good wife, a good friend, a good teacher, a good anything you want. Because for us women, the list goes on and on and on. But you have to be well yourself, and that's the first step that we have to take.
Are there times in your career, in your life, and being a mom and a parent that you haven't felt well, that
Yeah,
you've felt like you
yeah,
were sliding down
y-
and out of control?
yes. I think those are continuous improvements. And I think also as we grow, we're aware that you're going downhill. You need to stop. You need to take. A few years ago, I wasn't very well good at doing it, and I would go to that rock bottom. But now, every time I see that I need a refill, then I actually celebrate myself, do things that make me happy and get me back to where I need to be. So I'm aware of that. And right now, I'm more aware, and I know that I need to take more time to be able to make better. And then I also then take that effort to push those things. Because the problem with us as women, and you probably know, Rebecca, is that we want to do everything. We have to be better at delegating. We have to be better at teaching others. We have to be better at communicating. That's how people will know what we require or what they require so that we can all be better in the whole process.
So, I mean, I hear you. It's the difference between just picking it up and doing it all ourselves, or teaching and inspiring or building a team around us to help. But often, as an independent woman, it's hard to ask for help
It
because
is.
you've like maybe it's not there for you. So how
Yeah.
do you build a community? Who's been around you to lift you up during your career?
So I've had various people through my life, and I've been really blessed to have real good strong women through my life. Uh Growing up, my mom was a housewife. She was always there, just the right sort of person. She pushed us, like you've got to go for it. And she was the housewife. My dad provided everything. And but she was the rock, like my dad was extremely get this done, aggressive. You have to be top at your marks. You've got to do that. But she was the balance. And I think I continuously, especially now, appreciate her for bringing that, to allowing us that space that, yes, you can be your best version of yourself. And it's not defined by anyone. you have to know that this is my best. But then moving forward to now my professional life, I've had really good mentors in my life. My first boss was extremely, she pushed me. She told me you can move from a customer service to an account manager to a branch manager to manage the depot to the regional manager and the regional sales director, East Africa, and and beyond. Um, However, personally now, I have different people in my life. I have very good friends that have helped me and they've worked with me professionally who bring me that level. I have my friend actually right now we are in we're in South Africa. We had just come to do the Two Oceans marathon.
Ah,
Yes, so I have a very close friend of mine. She's been my rock spiritually, health wise, and pushing that agenda going forward. And then I have a very close friend. We are actually two friends, but there's a very close friend of mine who continuously is in my center of my life, and just pushing me, challenging me to get better, to do things better, to become the better version of myself, and to take rest. Both of them are always telling me take rest. But I think also most importantly is my husband. The support he gives me to be able to do the things I have, that's priceless.
how is your family structure? I'm interested in how is it different than how you grew up, where your mom was the housewife, the caregiver, father was at work, lots of
Mm,
kids. You're in a different scenario now, where
yes,
you're an earner in the household plus the mother, and then
yes.
what's your husband's? How's the dynamic and the situation in your
So
family?
we're both earners in the household. In Kenya, you can't be one. Both of us have to be.
Yeah.
Both of us are earners in the household. But in terms of managing the children, we both do, but he's really good at going to schools, checking out, because I travel quite a bit. So he supports in that other arm of ensuring the kids' homeworks are done, the children are going to school, and they're managing from that perspective. So we're a tag team, so to speak. And that has worked for us because then he's very liberated, allows me to excel, but at the same time, then supports when we need to do in the house. But we're different from what I saw with my mom and my dad. My mom was constantly there, and my dad was the earner, and come in and do provide the money, and life moves on.
Is your situation unique in Africa,
No,
or
no. Most people have two incomes, especially in the city. Most
at the
most
city?
couples would have income, but you do have we're blessed enough to have support of people to help us in the house, to clean the house, to cook. So even if you're working from 9 to 5, you still have someone who is helping you, to keep clean and cook to support. But because both parents have to be away at work.
So I have a question. As a highly educated, highly successful woman in Africa, are you one of the only ones in the room oftentimes? Are there a lot of women mentors around you? I know you've had female mentors in leadership, but
Yeah,
what if there aren't any women before you who are offering? I guess I'm curious.
yeah.
Are you unique, or are you seeing it change?
Well, I would say that you do get a few successful, not a few, you get really successful women. And I think as you go up the career ladder, the social ladder, and you then network, then you see all these women that are doing great things.
Mhm.
However, they're more close knit in their sort of social circles. So you wouldn't say that I'm walking and seeing every other woman successful. In Nairobi, there are more than maybe in a place like Uganda or Tanzania. Um, but even when you look at the composition in terms of leadership, let's look at globally politically, let's look at Africa politically, look at the leaders, mostly males. I mean, for the first time in Africa, we have, no, is it second time? We have the female president in Namibia, but it's far and wide. And that's the whole thing that, sipples down. And that's why as women leaders, you and I must support each other to push people to ahead. Because one of the things we noticed in my former role is that we would have women at the average and so middle level. But as we went to management and senior management, the women trickled. So there were programs that we were involved to help build and bring the women up to that level so that we can have more women up there. But the true split, it's still a challenge, because you'll find on the board, in the boardroom, in the meeting room, in many of those conferences, it's many males. So that's the difference.
Yeah, it's worldwide situation. So in your opinion, you've worked in a lot of teams. What makes the best team, in your opinion?
I think the best team is for us to understand what we need to do, because that's the beginning. If people are confused about what needs to happen, then it's a challenge. So whatever organization you are, NWBR, we understand this is our strategy. This is where we need to go. Break it down to your team. Hey team, this is where we need to go. If we are not quite sure, let's have a discussion. This is where we need to go, and this is how we need to go. And these are the processes we need to put in place for us to go to that particular place. I think when you have the open communication, if you have people to understand the goal, to buy into the goal, and to understand what their responsibility is, because sometimes we assume they understand. Because I've put this beautiful strategy, everybody understands. No, we have to break it down. We have to break it down so that everyone is in the same room, on the same page, ready to fire the gas cylinders. That's what should happen. And once you're able to do that and communication is open, that's how you start building the teams. You build the correct people with the correct skills, because if they do not have the skills to deliver your strategy, you have to ensure they have the right skills, the right people in the right structure managing that. And then from there, you build a culture of a common purpose, collective purpose, a collective goal, a reason for impact, a reason for change. And that's how you continuously have this engagement that hey, we're going to change the world, but I can't do it alone. I need you. And you build that culture and bring everybody to the table. So that's how, you slowly build into that culture, and the people who want to be on this ride will be on the ride. They'll come, they'll fall, they'll falter, but you'll pick them up and you'll push them. The people who don't want, you'll see them jumping off, and it's okay. It's okay. But as long as we're building a culture, people understand what we are doing, and we have a common and shared goal.
I can see why team building and building bridges with people is your superpower, because you make it sound very simple. Oh, common goal, just communicate. But I know it's not as easy as that. I know it's a lot of nuance and sort of skills that maybe you developed as a mother, maybe you saw through your mother and father myriad different attributes, but you make it sound really easy to build these.
No. Let me tell you, it's not easy. Every day it's a challenge. But then, because there are days that you do get frustrated, things are not going the way it should go. There's a day an email comes and you just want to scream. But as you grow older, I think we learn to breathe. And that's the art of life, that when you learn to take a pause, and focus on what we need to go, and then now you come back to the table, fresh mind, fresh idea, and with a clean perspective. Because inherently, some people don't necessarily want to create all this discon, but at the end of the day, if we do not have or do not allow for communication, then it becomes harder. So, I mean, there are always challenges. You have people in different teams who are not talking the same language. You have two great people within your team. They're both very good, but they both can't sort of see the same goal. And that's the hardest when you try and bring everybody together. It's not easy. It'll take time. And so as you continue to grow and they continue to see results, that's where they start saying, aha, this is the way direction we need to go. So celebrating the results, every little nouns, every little result, we constantly are celebrating and understanding that we can get better.
Can we go back to some of the challenges for you and before you learned to breathe, before you learned to take a moment, like a mom of 5 to do
Yeah.
running a car, and how do you even do that? Like what is your day? Are you getting up at 4 in the morning like the girls in rural Africa? And are you
Yeah, but by choice. I get up at 4 by choice because I want to go to the gym. Not like the
okay, so
girls.
4 in the morning.
Yes,
Wow.
I get up at 4. I have to be in the gym by about 4:45. And then from there I come straight to the office. However, I do have a good support system. I have sisters around where I live. I have friends around where I live. And we all live like communities. So the community supports. Um, and right now, because my children are in a good space right now, it's much easier. When I was younger, it was hard because the children were younger. But now I have my firstborn's 25, 24, and then 22. All those are in university. So it's easier. And then the last two are 15 and 14. It's much easier to manage because they're older. They'll talk. When they require something, they'll reach out. Um, so right now, I won't tell you. It's not as hard when you're much younger, when you really wanted to be there, but you knew for you to be able to go and make, that difference or to move up the ladder, you need to show up because this is, and it's interesting, Rep, you say that because this is why so many women fail, because then you choose, I need to be here, so I'll choose my family. I can't take this job that allows me to go all over the world. And you don't advance your career. Unfortunately, that's the reality.
Yeah.
But if you're able to put good support systems, or you have good support systems, you have a good spouse, you have people around you, then you are able to take that chance to move and leap to the next level. Because everyone knows, oh, maybe she'll be having a baby next year, or she won't be around next year. All these things are things that are talked in the workplace. So it is not easy at all when you're growing up and you're trying to move to the next level. So most people resign and just say, okay, fine, let me stay at this point because it's, there's no spotlight on me. I can go away for a few months and come back and, just move. And you end up being, somewhere there. But if you truly want to make a difference, if you're truly aggressive like me and you want that, you've got to take, that's the risk you've got to take. That's the risk you've got to take.
I'm hearing some beautiful things. It sounds like there's so much, and this is my small experience being in Africa. There's so much richness in the family and the community support of people around you helping you. And it sounds like, yeah, you didn't want to choose between family or career. You wanted to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And bring people in to help make sure that you didn't lose your space in line in career, that you
Mm-hmm.
could have children and your career, but it took a lot of other people. If you had been alone, you wouldn't have been able to make the choice to do both.
Yes, or something would have given way.
Yeah.
If I didn't have all that, maybe I chose my career over, there's no help, then of course something gives away. So, but I definitely, you must make that choice in life if you want to move to the next level as a woman in Africa, wherever, because you have to make that choice. If you don't make that choice, that's where the difference is. So if you do not have, but again, as women, we also have to build good social capital. If you don't have good social capital, you have nothing. You have to be able to call the troops in and they come in. And that's not because you're in Africa. That's because you've managed to build a good social capital. Because that's what moves you to the next level.
Do you attribute your social capital and your ability to build relationships as one of the biggest factors in your success?
I think it has something to do with it. I think it has something to do with it. I think I have an opportunity. I have been blessed to be able to build good relationships. I don't take for granted that through some of these relationships, it's opened doors, it's allowed me to move forward. And I have been gracious to continuously build relationships, because I think in life, you may have the best product, you may have the best anything, but if you don't have the best ability to build relationships, to build trust from people, sometimes it becomes transactional. Nothing can be transactional. It has to be about the 360 that you're bringing to the table. That's important in life. Whether you're doing business, or whether you're um, talking to a friend, it has to be, what are you bringing to the table? What are you doing around the table? Who are you coming with the table? And how does that benefit us? I think that's how we need to look at it. So I approach life in the same way. As I build relationships with governments or county governments or with partners, I look at it like, how does that also align to your goal? How can we have a shared goal to push whatever we want? Our resources are like this. The problem is up here. With these small resources, how are we going to hit that problem? The only way is if I bring people on the table so that we are able to resolve the challenges.
You just articulated, you described yourself as a transformational leader, and you articulated that really well. It's not transactional. Your relationships, your work, it's transformational, because you're looking kind of, if you talked about the 8 pillars of health, but you're also looking at all the pillars of being a human in your work and your family. That it's your work and your life doesn't seem separate to me. You're looking at everything from a holistic.
No, and it shouldn't. I mean, you're a classic example of how everything that you did professional is now transcending to what you're doing right now. For you to be a professional athlete, whether it's riding, cycling, swimming, whatever it is, there's time you need to invest in that, right? And you would know better than I do how much time it is to be champions or to be great at what you're doing. But at the same time, how do you then ensure that whatever you're doing is not just a one-hit wonder? You would now be called the former champion, but what are we calling you? The podcast. It changes. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I agree. No one wants to be, well, people, I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. Neither do you.
No.
It's interesting. It's sort of a season. Like, if you think of athletic training, there's seasons of, like, where you're working hard, you're taking rest. It's called periodization in athletic training. But I also think of sort of the seasons of our careers and the seasons of even our week, the days you have off, the days you're working hard, and the season of your career of, pushing really hard when your kids were young and earning your space and not losing your place in line. And then that has now, all that hard work is now paying off in this season where you're really working on your legacy through the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working
Incredible.
on how can I make an impact. I want girls to look up to me and say that, hey, I want to be like her. I want to be like her because I want to change the world. Not that she has a fancy car and wears the best whatever. No, I want to change. I want them, because the only way we'll change this world is if we get on board. That's the only way. That's the only way. Everybody has to be part of this process.
And how do you hope that your children, the boys and the girls, how do you hope that they look at you?
I mean, when I did the Two Oceans Marathon on Sunday, it's half the marathon. It's half a marathon, so it's 21 kilometers. And unfortunately, I didn't finish. I was at 15 kilometers, and I was really hitting myself that I'm so angry. I'm so angry, and it's not an easy marathon. It's hard, the hills and everything. And I kept on telling myself, I should have prepared. I should have prepared more. I should have prepared more. And just to bring you back to, I came last year and I only did the first major hill, which is a hill nightmare, and I did only 3 kilometers. This year I did 15 kilometers, and yet I kept on hitting myself. And so I shared in the team, we finished, I didn't make it, I did 15 kilometers, and that's in the family group. And my children, we are so proud of you, Mom. You've made us proud. That's what I want to be, because as long as I do my best, I want my children to know that I have done my best and they're proud of me. That's what I want them to know, that wherever you go, you do your best. And that's good enough. That's what I want our children to understand. Just be your best version of yourself. Help yourself become better. Do what you need to improve yourself. Open yourself to a learning spirit. Every event, everything that you go through, let it be a learning curve to get better, to improve, and to learn and to share with others. And so them giving me that feedback sort of brought me back to, hey, you have done well. You did your best. You could have stopped at 5. No, you moved to 10. You could have stopped at 12. No, and you pushed all the way till 15. For me, that's what I want. I want the kids to understand. I want to inspire them in ways that they want to be good, they want to do good things, and they want to share all these experiences with others. I need them to understand the values of kindness, being fair, having integrity, those are the things that I want that they see through what I do, that they can replicate the same.
You know what I love is they reflected back on you probably the same thing you would have said to them. If they said, "Oh, well, I didn't finish," and you would have said, "Well, you did your best. You tried hard. Look at your improvement over last year." So they said exactly what you should have been saying to yourself, but you had your kids reflect that back on you. I think sometimes it's so hard for us to give ourselves the same reinforcement that we would give our coworkers or our friends or our children. So I love that they're mirroring right back on you what you needed to hear in that moment.
Yeah. And I did. I really needed to hear it.
I have a tactic that I've used forever in sort of my competitive days, and I use it now, is when I'm being hard on myself and I'm beating myself up over something, I speak to myself in the third person and pretend like I'm talking to a friend. What would I say to a friend? "Oh, Rebecca, no, you're doing well with this podcast, or you're trying hard, or you have great guests." Like, I take myself out of it and try to give myself the advice I would give somebody else.
That's a nice one. Yes.
So even if your kids aren't there to tell you, "Maureen, you did 15 kilometers. Last time you did 3," you can reflect that back on yourself. What would you
Yeah.
say to someone else? Because we
Yeah.
are so hard on, we would never say the things to a friend or even a stranger that we often say to ourselves.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
mean, that's profound. Absolutely. I mean, that's true, because I mean, if a friend had done 50, I would be like shouting all the way in the bleachers, "Hey, kudos." And here was I giving myself with a sore leg, sore back, and everything. Yeah, so I
So
agree.
why do we treat ourselves harshly like that?
I think we hold ourselves to a very high standard. I think it's how the society has defined success, that it's ultimate. If you're growing up, we were told, why aren't you number one? There's only one number one. There's only, in 100-meter race, you're 9 of you, or is it 8 of you, and only one person can win. And there has to be number 2, number 3, all the way till number 9. And yet you've come all the way, different countries, you're in the Olympics, and you're number 9 and you're upset, not thinking of where you come, because society has judged us that we only remember Usain Bolt. We only remember Carl Lewis. We only remember the greatest swimmer, the greatest. We do not remember those who have put the effort. And so we've defined success as, like the top. And that has trickled down to who we are. That unless you're up there in the UN changing things, you can't make a difference in society here. Unless you're top of one corporate, you're in Apple, you own, that's the definition of success in society. And that trickles down to us, that even if you're doing your best, that's not success. You have to be number one. You have to be the greatest. You have to be the top in your class. You have to shine. In a boardroom, you have to have the best presentation. In countries, your country has to be leading for you to define success. So that trickles also to us as individuals, that the only success to me is finishing. The only success to me is being the topmost, making the greatest impact. No. And that's the learning that we need to learn as individuals.
There's so much richness in that when we've talked about the arc of a career, and you and I both have had our competitive early careers, and the nice thing about building that is they can't take away from you your university degrees. They can't take away from me my world championships or those things where we won and we were first, you and I both. Those are now a body of work that you can stand on, that you can, use as a springboard. And so you no longer you can change your definition of winning at this point because you have lots of number ones on your resume, in your body of work, in your career. And so it is a nice part when people reach 40s and 50s is they have the ability to shift. Whereas when you're in your 20s and 30s, you do need to grab those wins. You do, to get the credibility, to be listened to be given the respect. You did need to earn those. But now you can make an impact in that girl and her mom that maybe not everyone's going to see that. That's not an Olympic medal, but it's even more important than an Olympic medal. And so I think there's the phases of the career. And what's beautiful about the second half of people's career is how it can be, instead of a mountain peak you're climbing with just room for one person at the top, it's now an ocean that is rising.
Absolutely.
And everyone's you're a swimmer, everyone's swimming and coming up together. And it's a beautiful perspective to be able to take in the second part of your arc and your career.
Yeah, I mean, what you've said is so lovely. Yes, because that's the first thing, is to go ahead. And of course, unfortunately for us women, we really need to have those wins to move ahead. But the second part of our career is so successful. However, if I knew a bit more than I know now in my early 20s, maybe a few things would have been different. Maybe a few choices would have been different. Pretty much the same thing, because I don't truly regret, because I believe every experience has helped me to be who I am today. But yes, some of the lessons that I'm learning right now, it's not about being number one in the class. It's not about all that. Some of those lessons are crucial. And as the world gets more competitive, our children right now and our children's children will suffer, because it's so cutthroat right now. And that makes almost people, like, want to fight to be in that space, as opposed to during our time, it was more like, I need to get there. I need to get there. So the balance needs to be there, so that we don't lose our values as we're trying to move to these wins that we think, or that we know, will move us to the next level.
Yeah. And I mean, developing, knowing your strong values is the first step, but you know what they are. And then I still love the social capital that you keep talking about with your business friends, your mentors, the people that you are mentoring and bringing along. There's such a community aspect to everything that you're doing that I think is a real lesson for us all to nurture and hold relationships as a true commodity.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. It's your social capital. It's capital.
I mean, it's a different kind of it's a more valuable capital in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So as we think about, I could talk to you forever, and I look forward to actually with Leah Mispakde, the co-founder of World Bicycle Relief. I think we need to do a collaborative trip where we come visit you and maybe ride a bicycle
Absolutely.
together.
You are more than welcome. You are more than welcome to come and visit and just chat with us.
I want to close with some things that, since this is called What's the Rush, and it's about, you talked about learning to breathe and taking a minute and slowing down, as we leave, maybe for your children or the girls coming up behind you, or what are you slowing down right now? What are you taking a moment to reflect on, or is there something you're still trying to learn at this moment?
Okay, that's a great question. Um, as I move towards my 50, what I take a pause on is, what does retirement look like to me? How do I want retirement to look like? And as I reflect on all my years, the experience I have, the opportunities I had, what do I want to do in my retirement? So that's been here at the back of my mind for the last year or so, as I keep
Yeah.
thinking about that. And I know that I have to do the work now so that I cement what I want to do in my retirement.
Mhm.
So that's the pause that keeps me thinking.
Yeah. And that word retirement, I mean, it's a funny word, because as a professional athlete, I've been asked my whole life, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? Even when I'm 30, when are you going to retire? And it's a shift and a change. It's not,
Yeah.
you don't retire from life. There's a
No.
lot of life, or you don't retire from impact.
Yeah.
It just shifts and will look a little different, so that
Yeah.
the foundation that you built,
Yeah.
others will be standing on.
Yeah.
Others are standing on.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, as we continue to age, our income ability reduces. But then,
Mhm.
how do you want that life to look at like? What do you need to do to ensure that you're in that space that it still allows you the free will to do what you want to do, with the funds that you may have or have acquired or have put aside to do that, and in the most effective way? So how does that look like, and I think that probably this thought should have come early on in life, given you time for you to be able to make it, so that you're clear. But I know for sure is that what I'm doing right now, I was meant to do this. I just know that for sure. And as you rightly fully say it, does it mean that I have to stop? Maybe not. Maybe not. How do I continue? Maybe that's the question. And that's what I pause to think
I
about.
think however it looks, it's going to be done in your very special Maureen Kolenyo way, because you haven't done anything, you've done everything uniquely your way, which is beautiful. And I love that you brought it all back to the bicycle. You talked about, how am I going to freewheel in retirement and let the wheel just coast, and you're putting the pedal to the metal right now, but
Yes.
eventually you're just going to be flying downhill on that beautiful
Yes.
bike. And
Yes,
with
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the bicycle has taught me things I mean, I've read, but the simple tool that's been here for centuries has
yeah,
really brought me back to the basic, back to the basic,
I
back to the
agree.
basic.
It's a beautiful tool that changes lives, and I'm so grateful to meet you and for the work that you're doing. And I look forward to our bike ride together in some point in the
Yes. Yes, you're so welcome to come to Africa, to Kenya, to Nairobi, or even Uganda or Tanzania. Any of those countries will work for
yeah,
us.
all of them. It's a big place, big beautiful place.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
Jane, thank you so much for the interview. Do you have anything you want to say to wrap up before I stop?
yes, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you. By the way, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, because then, sometimes we need to have these conversations as we keep on thinking about what we're doing. And you was so gracious to allow me this opportunity to chat with you, to talk with you, to share our experiences, because we were chatting and you really were giving me your experience, which are also very profound. So thank you for this opportunity, and it was great just chatting with you.
Well, we're now part of the same mentorship, women in leadership group and community. So I'm also grateful for the conversation. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
It's a long and dusty road and a hot and heavy load. Folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.